So before we write an actual script, let's look a little bit more to how to create our user interface or deal with the visual part of the editor. And so what I've done is I've added a couple of extra um, items to our user interface, a new text field and a new button, and they're both of the TextMesh Pro type, just because TextMesh Pro has the nice textual features for these things. Um, and they're pretty much jumbled together because I just stuck them in the center, and which is the default, and let them be like that. Now I've been working in game mode, which shows me what the game will actually look like, which is kind of nice. But you can see it kind of jumbles things together. So I'm going to go to scene mode. We saw this before, but now we get a little better view of it. Okay, of and what I'm doing is I'm right clicking and dragging so I can drag things around. And if I look, there's my camera. And then there are the fields in there. Of course, there's minus all the color and stuff, so you can't really see anything. But you can use these tools up here. So I'm going to pick the move tool, click on the second button, and you can see it got a marker on here to show where it is. And I'm just going to grab it and move it out of the way. If you're clever enough to grab it in the right spot, you can move it in two directions at once. Otherwise, you move it in the direction of the arrow that you've grabbed. And if this were 3D, there would be a third arrow allowing you to point. And you can change your view and rotate and stuff. There's a rotate tool so you can rotate things around. There's a scale tool so you can resize them. And there's a rectangle tool that allows you to do the usual button resizing. And so I'm not going to be particular about where I put stuff on here at the moment. I am just kind of moving things around, grabbing them. So I'll go back to the move tool. So this is just an alternative. Notice I can still have put in numbers in the inspector for the rectangular transform, but this is just another way to move stuff around. Okay, so that's all I'm doing. So I'm going to move my text field just kind of up. Okay, and then I'm going to keep this button here, but I will resize it a little bit so it's a little easier to see. Oops, sorry, rectangle tool. There's the rotate tool, the rectangle tool for the button. And now I'll just resize that one a little bit. And then here's the other thing to be aware of. When you're doing these designs, you get these names that are not really very descriptive, and you can't tell one text field from another. You can't tell one button from another. And so this is generally not what you want to do. And before you start coding, since you want to be able to refer to these things by name, it's a good idea to actually name them. I'm going to go back to game view so I don't move stuff around. There's what it would actually look like at this point. And so now I'm going to rename some stuff. So that first text field, and you can rename it right here, okay? Or you can rename it here in the inspector, and either one is fine. And I'm going to rename that one to title because that is the title, okay? So that's a good way to, name things that are meaningful. So this one button is going to now be button. Oops, I wanted to keep the button. Sorry about that. BUTTON, toggle text. Okay. And this one will be my text, but meaningful names are better than just generic names. Okay, what if I had more than one text field? So really you do want to give them good names, and you want to do this when you create them before you start writing scripts for them. So that's why we're doing this in this video. And then this one, I'm going to call it enable, or excuse me, button enable toggle. Okay. Now, I've changed names, but they still just say button, button. So I need to fix that. Fun thing about buttons is, especially the Unity buttons, they have a text child. Um, Text Mesh Pro buttons have a Text Mesh Pro child. Other than that, they're exactly the same. So they work pretty well. But now I can go and pick on this text and put in something that's a little meaningful. So you notice that they have all these fields. Right now I've selected the text, so this is just a text thing. When I select the button, it doesn't have the text directly in it. It has a button component, an image component. This is what that image basically is. So it's got the slightly rounded corners that are hard to see in this scale, that kind of stuff. But it's got a lot of fields. It has its normal color, highlighted color, pressed color, which is kind of a gray, so that if you operate this and press the button, you'll see it gray out. You can disable it, which is also that same gray. And you can change those values pretty much the same way we change the color of the background. Okay, so I've got that one. I'm going to change this one to text. Okay, and in text main, I don't want to say new text. I want it to say, actually, primary okay, so that we can tell it from whatever we toggle it to. I can also play around with other stuff in here, change it, make the font style bold, etc. I can change the size. So let's make it instead 24 so it's not so big. There we go. Okay. So again, you can play around with these fields quite a lot and do quite a lot of stuff before you do any actual programming. So we're just setting up our system, naming things, making sure that everything has pretty much unique names where they need it. Now, does the button need to have a field that is named something other than text? Honestly, no, because each button is going to have one text field. So why call it something unique? And we're going to refer to that text field if we need to in any code by first referring to the name of the button and then its particular text. So I didn't really need to rename those, but boy, renaming the buttons themselves, not a bad idea. So, okay. So this is preparation, and this is just a simple setup. So the next thing we can do now is finally write a script. And what we're going to do is we're going to write a script that does a few things. So the first thing we're going to do is write a button script that will toggle the primary text to something else. And if you press the button again, it'll put the text back to where it was. Okay, so that'll be our next step.